Which
just last week, I've known Sean for several years now. We sit on a school board together, and just last week I got to hear him speak on this very topic in Arizona. And all I can say is that it rains there not like it rains here. It was like torrential, flooding, raining, and we were in a tent. And I'm like, we walk in and I'm like, nobody's gonna come to this thing tonight. I rushed from the airport to get to this thing, and there's like 15 people in there. And then like 20 minutes later, there was 130 people in there. And it was like, we just kept bringing out more chairs, and it was a really great talk. It was amazing. One of the most heart-centered couples that I know, and they're just about service and about community and about helping people to help themselves. And tonight's topic is about plant medicine and CBD in particular. And I thought I knew a lot about it. I read a lot and tried a lot, and I learned a lot of things last week. It was really awesome. And so get ready for a really great talk. If you're in the back and you're struggling to hear, please move up, because he's not going to be able to scream or raise his voice. But two of my favorite people on the planet right here. Thank you, Sean.
appreciate it very much. I'm gonna try this little Mr. Microphone sound. You guys hear it at all?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, that'll probably help. If it gets too bad, I'll just bring the mic over to my amazing wife here, and she'll run with it.
And I don't need a mic.
No, she's an East Coast girl. Anybody here East Coast?
Oh,
I've got East Coasters. I can count.
Yeah.
I know East Coast. Oh yeah, you for sure. So sometimes I have to tell Tyleen to use her West Coast voice. Because just bring it down, baby. You're scaring some people right now. That's okay. It works.
And I'm usually the one that loses my voice because
Yes.
I'm always talking so much and so loud. And this is the first time in forever. I don't even know if I ever remember him losing his voice. So.
20 years. You'll leave this right here. So, super frustrating. I don't have a voice, so I apologize in advance. I just got back home. We live in Ocean Beach. I was on the road for about a month. Tyleen tapped out about a week early. She was done.
Which is why I have a voice.
Yeah. When you're going from, like, we were in Dallas and then went through Florida, and we were in Puerto Rico for 8 or 9 days. Super cool down there. Great weather. And then we were going to go back to Florida, which we did. Miami, West Palm. And then we were supposed to continue through Florida, and then we got called to this meeting in New York, Times Square. And this was my jacket, so I didn't even have anything there. So we were freezing. We got rained on. And we flew to Arizona. She left. When David came in last week, it was like a whole nother flood. And here I am, man. I was up like 22 hours. And I had to go leave Phoenix, rush to Tucson, do this event down there. I'm like, man, this is not very good. I can't keep doing this. Because it's just been nonstop. And if you're familiar with the Farm Bill, which took place a couple of months ago, our whole world has changed. And my wife and I have been traveling and speaking on plant medicine for the past, close, for me, almost 20 years, her over that. And this is what we do. I mean, we just do this. It can be a nice little intimate setting like this. It can be thousands of people in an arena. It doesn't really matter to us. We feel called to do what we do. Never thought in my wildest dreams I would be doing this. Had no intention of helping people live a healthier lifestyle. Ty changed my world about 20 years ago. At that time, I was in my mid-30s. I had arthritis in my hands, acid reflux, indigestion, things like that. And she told me things that I'd never heard. You know, I was trying to do some preventative things with juicing and things. I'd lost my mom to colon cancer. So 20 years ago or so, she starts telling me about plant enzymes, stabilized probiotics, whole food supplements, raw food. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. So, but I'll listen. She was pretty hot, so that didn't hurt anything. We like to be transparent as well. So, she had worked with hundreds of doctors and some professional athletes. That got my attention. And she basically told me things I'd never heard. And I was not one who wanted to get medicated. I never really thought that was the answer. Of course, Tylene, we like to tell people no one in this room is drug deficient or nutrient deficient. You know, and so one thing led to another. But it took her about a week to completely change my body, or teach me how to allow my body to change itself, I should say. So here I am 20-some years later now with still no pain in my hands, never had acid reflux again, never had indigestion again, and besides my voice, you know, I'll be 55 in a couple months, I feel 100%. And I didn't feel 100% in my 30s. I grew up here in San Diego. All my buddies that I grew up with, they don't feel 100%. They certainly don't look 100%. I don't even recognize most of these guys. And a lot of them were athletes like myself, and it's frustrating to us. You know, we live in a bubble here in Southern California, especially up here in the Encinitas area. This is a bubble within the bubble. You know, we go all over the place. Please believe me, it's not like this everywhere. I mean, the bubble down here is cool. NorCal's cool. You got the Wizards that come out to play up in Oregon. We go up there, man. Oregon's a trip. We got nothing on the folks up there. They just kind of come out of the forest, and it's magical up there up in Oregon. But people don't know, man. They don't know what they don't know. And so, my wife creates products. She's done that for many years for doctors, health practitioners, retail brands, things like that. She's been preaching gut health for the past 20 years. We've been laughed at. I don't know, anyone ever throw stuff at us?
Not at me. I'm East Coast, I'd throw back.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, we were just the weirdos, man. We were the California weirdos or the West Coast weirdos and woo-woo, whatever you want to call it. And then Dr. Oz a few years ago said everything starts in the gut. And then everyone believed us all of a sudden for some reason. So that's cool, we don't care. It's not about us, it's just about making sure people understand how simple this all is. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about CBD because that's the latest and greatest. The Farm Bill has changed everything with CBD. You know, we've been working, it's been kind of scary for us doing what we do the past many years away from CBD because they don't like us teaching and speaking, as you might know. You know, you can't be very outspoken when it comes to autism or cancer or vaccines or any of these things. And we're always reminding people, just follow the money. You know, we always want you to remember, follow the money, and the other thing that we always live by is at what cost to the body. And so, those are the kind of two basic things that we always have to keep in mind whatever we're doing. But CBD's changes landscape dramatically. So we've seen thousands and thousands of lives change over the years with plant medicine, plant enzymes. The last 5 years with CBD, we've been pretty underground. It's been kind of funky, pretty scary actually. You know, and we'll do things, some places it was a lot easier. It was some of the cancer facilities or patients in Tijuana, something like that where they're practicing these things. But it wasn't cool all the time. You know, we had to hide out and we had to stay in the shadows because they don't, you know, it wasn't legal everywhere. That was the biggest reason. Everywhere we'd fly, we'd have all this product in our suitcase and she'd never put it in hers.
Conveniently.
Yeah, conveniently.
I don't have any more room.
Yeah, well, that was true as well.
Yeah.
But we made it. We made it. And we just kind of prayed and we meditated and we just, like, man, someday we're going to be able to shout this from the rooftops. And people aren't going to have to be afraid anymore. And we're going to change way more lives. And that's really what's been happening. The Farm Bill in the middle of December completely changed everything. It completely changed the landscape. Now people outside of places like San Diego, they've never even heard of the Farm Bill. I mean, they don't know what it means at all when it comes to CBD. There's so much going on. This is moving so fast. I think it's hard for any of us to keep up with it. Even people who are in this space. You know, David, you know, we talk about this, and you're in the space, and we talk about these things. It's moving fast. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. There's a huge financial shift because of CBD. You know, when something this big happens, all the marketers come out to play. There's nothing wrong with that, except for when people are truly trying to deal with plant medicine and they're not getting what they would hope to be getting to help their body out. And then maybe they never go back and experience CBD again because someone sold them some nonsense. It's just, that's what's frustrating to us. So being up here in Encinitas, I don't really need to teach too many people we like to say sometimes we have to unlearn what we've learned, right? And I was that guy. You know, I never smoked cannabis or pot in my life. My older brothers, I'm the youngest of 8, they scared me straight. I was a head high school football coach for many years. I ran high school basketball programs. I love kids, I love coaching. But I was that straight-laced coach, man. You touch anything, you're not in my program. I didn't know what I didn't know. I was duped like pretty much everyone else. You know, and it was a big thing for me 6 years ago to start researching this because I thought completely opposite of what I was experiencing. So the Farm Bill opens that up. If you're familiar with it, you're gonna read whatever you wanna read. I think the first day that came out, I read it was gonna be about an $800 billion shift from farming to banking to blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of money. CBD alone, there's reports coming out every other day, it seems like 22 billion, 25 billion, 24 months, 36 months, whatever it is. It's a big number. I kind of laugh, they start comparing it to Starbucks revenue. It's kind of weird, isn't it? It's going to be, CBD will be bigger than Starbucks in the US. Wow. It's a good time, right?
Yeah.
So here we are. We're at this moment, man. A super life-changing time in our lives. I believe the biggest change I'll see in my lifetime. Obviously, technology, iPhones, etc. Huge shift. But nothing as dramatic as, boom, draw a line in the sand and say, now you can participate in CBD all over the country right now. And even that's confusing to people. There's still a few states that are tripping. Idaho hasn't gotten over themselves yet. Nebraska, South Dakota. Good news about, sorry Tessa, the good news about Nebraska and South Dakota, there's not a lot of people there. We were just up in Idaho about 6 weeks ago. We had hundreds and hundreds of bottles of CBD, and we're just like creeping around. We pull into the hotel. The lady's like, what do you guys do? We just educate, but we had just come from an event, so we had some product, and we educate on CBD. She goes, oh, I love CBD, but did you hear about Susie? I'm like, no, who's Susie? These small towns in Idaho. Susie had that store across the street. Yeah, they just arrested Susie like 2 weeks ago. Threw her in jail because she was selling CBD. I'm like, okay. I didn't know about Susie, but I'm not gonna go across the street. I don't even let anyone know what I'm doing here, but it's still happening. So it's just ignorance, it's confusion, and people will throw things out there to scare people and intimidate people and confuse situations, right? A confused mind, everyone's gonna put their arms up and stop. So we live in a different place here. So we want to make sure that sometimes the smartest, the more savvy communities, like here at Eve and in Encinitas, they don't know what they don't know either. I've seen my wife work with a lot of docs, could be naturopaths, could be MDs, could be any type of health practitioner. Some of the most brilliant folks I've met, and they would always be missing a piece that she would help them with. You know, specifically gut health, let's say, or whatever it is. So we just want to clarify some things. You guys are super smart because we're in Encinitas. When I go to these other places, it's not really the case. One of the first questions usually is, can you get high? No. It's a different seminar, workshop. You're not gonna get high, and that's okay. Some of you still thought you could get high, that's okay. Tessa, you probably thought you could get high. Come on. You're not gonna get high from CBD. THC is basically the part of the plant that gives you that high effect. Okay? But all over the country, people don't know that. They don't know what they don't know. And this is the kind of common sense things that aren't common sense. Here they are, but there they are not. But even here locally, people are confused. You grew up in my day and age, right? This is your brain on drugs. It was all about that. Well, we were duped, obviously. And many decades ago, when they banned the research on this plant, we should have known then, right? If you follow the money, why were we not allowed to research the plant? That's ridiculous in itself. So 1964, great year, I was born that year. Israel picks it up. They get this huge discovery regarding CBD. A couple of decades later, whenever it was, they discover and figure out the endocannabinoid system. That's mind-boggling to me, with all these brilliant minds on this planet. How did they not know that? Probably because no one was allowed to research. I don't know. But if they knew we had an immune system, a nervous system, an endocrine system, but they didn't know we had an endocannabinoid system, that's shocking to me. No one knew. No one knew right now as we're all sitting here that our body's trying to create CBD, that we're so depleted and so deprived. None of us knew these things. And the health things that we deal with people, I think I love this trade, man. Perfect. The health issues that we work with and have watched over the years are so preventative. It's so frustrating. And it's way easier, you guys, obviously, to prevent than to reverse or to change. But our bodies were made pretty well. They just need to be given an opportunity to see what it can do on its own to heal itself. We're not allowed to say much, and it's always been that way. This is what it is. We love our country. We just can't say a lot. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter the celebrities we worked with. It doesn't matter the professional athletes we had. Remember Steve Nash, basketball guy? Steve was a super cool cat. Where's our little musician? Canadian, another Canadian, David. And Steve was super cool because he was really into health. And the night I met Tylene 20 years ago, whenever it was, she wanted to save the world.
I still do.
She still does.
I still have hope.
She has hope. I thought it was kind of corny when I met her, but now I'm living it. She
Now
wrote
you
me
get
in.
what I mean.
Yeah, I get it. But Steve said, he came to us and said, I want to help you guys save the world quick. Man, that's kind of cool. But the problem with that was, we're working with these NFL, NBA, NHL teams or players and all this stuff. People thought we were a sports company, sports nutrition company. And then we ended up in like thousands of stores like Whole Foods, and she's over there making products, and we lost ourselves. We never intended for that to happen. See, bottles don't talk, but it was never about that for us. We started something, I guess you could call it a business, but there was no business plan. There was no business model. David and we were talking about strategy. There was no strategy. We weren't good business people to get into business with because it wasn't about the money. It really wasn't a plan, except to communicate and share information with people, to take their health more into their own hands, period. Well, here we are, it's come full circle. We're back doing what we love to do the last handful of years. And so let's just kind of dive into that. Everyone's heard of CBD, correct? Anyone not heard of CBD before tonight? Okay. There's still our hands that go up in some places. We were just in Puerto Rico. I haven't figured this one out. They had about 500-600 people in a big hotel in Puerto Rico to come listen to CBD. And when I asked how many people knew had heard of CBD, I don't know, 4 or 5 hands went up. Maybe it's because they didn't understand my English.
I was just going to say that. They didn't understand what you asked.
I didn't understand the person, the interpreter either. It was crazy. But they didn't know. They were clueless. And we've got to get this out there. Is everyone with me? CBD does not get you high. Can we get past that? Okay, so here's what's happening. This endocannabinoid system they discovered in the body Basically, I just want you to picture a bunch of receptors, picture a bunch of little locks in your body, empty locks. And when given the right CBD, I'll just say, I don't want to say right, real, call it real, enough of what CBD is supposed to be. These little receptors, these little empty locks start to fill. It's like putting these keys into these locks. Does that make sense? Little visual. There's a couple big receptors, main receptors. They believe there's a third. They haven't said it yet. They're still researching. But one is near the brain. You guys hear a lot about CBD with the brain, right? Seizures, things like that. Parkinson's, anxiety, all these different issues. Sleep, whatever it is. That's because I want you to think of this. Let me back it up. You guys know you have a nervous system, right? We're familiar with that, an immune system. CBD is like the immune system part of the plant, by the way. Okay? Your endocrine system, you know what that is. Your thyroid. We have thyroid issues nowadays. Where do those come from? Our sexual health, your endocrine system. Your endocannabinoid system is like a communication system of your systems. It's like a network communicating and helping control these other networks in the body. Does that make sense? I'm really trying to oversimplify. Well, if everything starts to communicate and fire correctly, the body starts to do things differently. Just like we've been teaching with gut health, because we know when people eat, everything starts in the gut. Digestion basically takes precedence over everything going on in the human body when you eat food. And when you eat raw food, you know, it's awesome being in a place like Eve because of the options that are out there. You're just giving to the body. You're not putting any pressure on the human body. None. As soon as you take that piece of whatever and heat it and cook it and kill it, not that it's bad, but now it's dead. And life gives life. And death gives death quicker. Period. End of story. Okay? They're saying that the gut's the other brain. You've heard these things now. It's because we weren't supposed to eat the food we've been eating for generation to generation, and it's caught up to us. Now we're all jacked up, right? We're jacked up. Sickest generation this country's ever seen. Shouldn't be this way, but it is what it is. But how do we change that? Well, one piece of that, obviously, is you can go into food. You can start talking about that, and we think that's the biggest piece, by the way, is your food. We believe that everyone needs a full spectrum plant digestive enzyme when they're eating cooked food, and the reason why is because the mystery in life, one of them now is we don't know what we start life out. Our little pancreas, our little bank account of enzymes, we don't know what we start life with. So you could basically answer disease back to some form of inflammation if you trace it all the way back. So just take any illness and think about what that sickness is and what would that mean. Let's say diabetes. What would that be? What do you talk about with diabetes? Sugar. Okay? I mean, just take anything. For me, arthritis. So imagine hearing this. Sometimes cameras are doing that a year and a half, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean there's no such thing? My doctor in Scottsdale told me, my doctor in Phoenix told me, one of my doctors says I need surgery. I was like, that guy's bragging. Well, tell me about my pain that I have. And I go, so tell me. She goes, well, it's really simple. Your body just can't break your proteins down to an amino acid, Sean. That's all. Well, that's it. So that's it. That was it. So a week later, stopped all that uric acid, all that crap in my body was gone. Now we've watched thousands of people go through so many different scenarios over the years. But people don't know this stuff. You can't talk that way publicly. You just get, I don't want to get into what happens. But it's not good to talk that way. Even when we had Steve Nash with us, part of our business, we were talking about this last night. We spent a ton of money on making a commercial with Steve on a heavy proteolytic enzyme product of ours. And we finally just said, screw it, we're not even doing this. We're like 150 grand into this thing. It was so dumb. We couldn't say anything. We got in trouble because we had a picture of a lady gardening. It was a little over a minute, kind of like a little mini infomercial, but really not. And this lady was gardening, and she had, where her knee was bothering her, we had like the color red, you know, as a graphic circling around her knee. Well, you couldn't do that. It had to be blue, because that implied inflammation. We had a buddy of ours who owns a company. He advertises in Southwest Magazine. He got fined $75,000 because he used the word revolutionary in his product. It is an amazing product, by the way. But because he said revolutionary. You just can't say anything, man, and that's what's hard. And so people just, you know, we do what everyone's doing. We go home and watch whatever silly commercial comes on and with drugs. I don't even need to go into it. You guys know how asinine those are. And can cause this, your headache goes away, but you might die or whatever. It's great. I mean, and everyone runs and buys it. So we want to change the mindset of the sheeple, because it's not supposed to be this way. It really isn't. So let's go and take it back to CBD. The body has a system trying to create CBD, and we have these receptors that are trying to get filled. What do we do about that? Well, here's what everyone's doing. And this is not a knock on anyone. I just want to tell you what's happening most of the time. First and foremost, the companies, the marketers came out to play, and what they needed to do was stay legal. So the first thing they started doing was creating CBD oil from industrial hemp. Okay? Industrial hemp like you could make my shirt with. Okay? Single molecule plant, a little different plant than cannabis, cousins. It's cool. It's all good. But this industrial hemp that was coming in from China and other places was not so cool. So they'd make these oils, and they would put whatever they needed to put into that oil to get enough material to fill their, in the beginning, those little dropper bottles, tincture bottles. And they would extract these plants pretty much the same way, either a chemical, alcohol, butane, propylene glycol, whatever, your chemical of choice, pick what you like. Maybe critical CO2, right? As things got better, a lot of people were using a lot of heat. Critical CO2 is kind of becoming the cleanest of the dirties. And that's okay. Everyone's doing what they were learning to do. They take this oil, they add in most of the time, always, most of the time, other oils as carriers, maybe flavoring. They try to add things back in that they couldn't extract when they hit the plant one time. The terpenes, the essence of the plant, flower, okay? All these other things that are part of what this plant medicine is, they would try to put back in. They're doing this now. You can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. We've been teaching whole food, whole plant, whole flower, everything we've done for many, many years. So even the best of the best oftentimes still miss a couple of these points. It's like vitamins and supplements. Even though there are amazing vitamins and supplements out there, almost all of them in the United States still use synthetic vitamins, period. They can use some other really cool ingredients, but just flip that bottle around. At my age, spin the bottle around, okay? Cool was that game back in the day? All right. Vitamin C as ascorbic acid. I'll use vitamin C, very common. And just check out your vitamins or supplements at home. If it's vitamin C as ascorbic acid, that's a synthetic version. That is a piece of what vitamin C is. That is not vitamin C. That is one part of a vitamin C molecule, okay? There are other things that make up what real vitamin C is. So you run down to the doctor, "Doc, I have a cold." He says, "Go down to the Walgreens or CVS and get a gazillion milligrams of vitamin C." All right. You do what Doc says. And they don't know what they don't know. We love our dogs, but they don't know this stuff. So you run down there, you get a gazillion milligrams of vitamin C, hoping that your body will absorb or use right? What it can. But since it's not real vitamin C, when you take it, your body's like, what's up? I don't even know what this is. It's not a vitamin C molecule. So it starts to pull from your hair, your skin, your nails, your bones, to complete that molecule to make it whole. Something that was created in nature. See, we can't play God. There's nothing wrong with science and labs, but there's Mother Nature, and then there's everything else. Period. So what happened in CBD was the same. In the beginning, it was 50 milligrams, 75, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. It was like a bidding war going on. 500, 750, 1,000, 1,500. I hear 2,000, 2,500 milligrams. It was a big game. So silly. We saw one a couple weeks back. I don't even know what this number is, but it was something million, what was that? Nanograms or nanograms. The heck? It's just a game. It's all marketing. Number one, it's not the whole thing. It's not what the medicine potentially has. It's just a piece of the puzzle. It's just a piece. So now you take these oils, and what do they tell you to do with most CBD oils? Who's used CBD oil? No one? Did I scare someone? Ah. You've used it?
Only yours.
Ours?
From her, yeah.
Wow. I've used a lot of CBD oils, and some of them are super cool. Some of them aren't very cool. And I like to always look at anything that I'm going to do for my body from a plant medicine perspective is at what cost to the body, number one, and then at what cost. So you take your oil, hold it under your tongue sublingually most of the time, maybe for 90 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, to hopefully get your body to absorb what it can, right? You guys know that's why you're doing it. Your body can't absorb a lot of that. Is what it is. Reality is about 6 to 10%. Okay? What's super cool about it is oftentimes it still works. That's pretty cool. I think part of it's just because that's how important it is. I think that's also how depleted we are. That we can have medicinal value with such a small absorption into the body. So, what I want you to look for when you're buying CBD oils is not only read what's being added in, know what they extracted with. If you extract with chemicals, what do you have to clean your equipment with? Chemicals. Okay? So if you're into the planet at all, it's a thought. The other thing I want you to really look at, besides what they're putting into it, is what are you paying per dose? Because no one talks to you about that. If the average dropper is 20 drops, and maybe that CBD oil is 20 drops a dose, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 30, whatever. They're all over the board because no one really knows. Just divide what you paid for that product by how many doses you actually get. Don't pay too much for CBD oil. You don't need to. Okay, super important. When you use these CBD oils, it's like any other plant medicine. You're probably gonna have some value there. For some people, it might work quicker than others. Some people may feel something immediately. Some people may never feel anything. Okay? It just is one of those things, and that's okay. But we all have different issues that we're trying to deal with. Don't expect miracles from your CBD, even though we've witnessed miracles happen over and over again. Because it's like an adaptogen. It's going to do something different for you than it is for me, and for her, and for him. Does that make sense? Okay, so we all have different stuff. We're the same, but we're different. It's like enzymes, plant enzymes. They're always, if you're a full spectrum enzyme, it's always going to break your food down. So you can't say, well, it doesn't work. No, it broke your food down. That's the goal of that. With CBD, depending on what that person's trying to accomplish. Number one, I saw a sign. Did we just see a sign, listen to your body? So funny, we've seen that for 20 years, listen to your body. I just saw a billboard out here. Someone, listen to your body, like, that's cool. You've got to learn to listen to your body, especially with CBD, and see what's going on. Most people are going to say they sleep better. But if that doesn't mean you're going to sleep better. Because everyone, we want something right now all the time. All the time. How many people in here, don't say mine because it's something we do. How many people in here use CBD in a form of a dropper? I'm just curious. How about in a pump? Pumpers, sprays, topicals. Yeah, you just bathe in it, man. I mean, yeah, I just get a straw and put it in it. Okay. That's very cool. I'm gonna have you guys in a minute taste something if you like. It's pretty cool. About 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it was, we met an individual. He's down in the Ocean Beach, Sunset Cliffs area. And this guy figured out a way how to extract any plant on this planet with no chemicals, no critical CO2, no heat. And what he learned and discovered on accident, by the way, he wasn't trying to do this. What he discovered was when you extract the way he was extracting, this is what attracted Tylene and I. He only extracts the flower, so he's extracting the whole flower. He's getting everything out of that flower from a medicine perspective that these CBD oils aren't necessarily grabbing. Because most oils, and that's when you look at your ingredients, they're throwing these things back. They're adding these things like the terpenes, like I talked about flavonoids, where they're adding flavoring, some are adding THC. And then there's, by the way, the marketers that are telling you no THC. That's okay, I guess. I would never buy that because you want at least a trace amount of THC to allow CBD to do what it's fully capable of doing. Period. Okay, now the marketers are going to tell you otherwise. This is what it is. It doesn't mean some people won't have medicinal value, okay, with the CBD without THC. But if you're going to spend your time and money on plant medicine, then do it right. We've been teaching the same thing on whole food supplementing. We've been teaching the same thing with probiotics, stabilized probiotics. Who here uses probiotics? Okay, right on. If you ever ask yourself this, my probiotics have to live in a refrigerator. How are they going to live in my human body at the temperature of my body? You'll pay more for the probiotics in the refrigerator. It's got to be the good ones. They're in the refrigerator. It doesn't mean they won't work. They won't fully do what they're capable of doing because they're not going to live long enough in your lower intestines in the first place. How are they going to? It's the same kind of thing. Use your time and money on plant medicine to the best of your ability. And it's no different with CBD. This gentleman figured out that even though most CBD oils are dosing 10, 20, 30 drops, and by the way, there's a bell curve with CBD oil. No one talks about this either. There's a bell curve. You take too much CBD oil, you just start losing the effect. It just starts dropping. So now you've wasted more time and more money. What he figured out by getting all the medicine one time when he hit the plant, they only needed 2 drops to dose. It's very different. He also figured out that you could just drop it on the tongue and let it just go away. Drop it on topically. Drop it in your glass of tea or your bottle of water because it's completely water compatible. Has a lot to do with, let's just call it bioavailability, if that makes sense. So know your dosing, know what they're adding into your CBD that you're using. Most of them are going to do something. There's the marketers out there that really don't care. I've dealt with some of these phone calls. You know, we deal with a lot of big companies that when I sat in these meetings with this gentleman 4 or 5 years ago, they would really kind of laugh. When really it was mostly their ego or their insecurity or their frustration that they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars on their extraction facility, equipment, etc. And we could come in there and do it for tens of thousands of dollars. That didn't sit well with a lot of people. Does that make sense? Sometimes we don't want to know what we don't know. Well, now these same people are chasing this methodology of how to extract. Everyone you guys know, not just because you live here in North County, I believe, it's just my opinion, in the next 3 years, every single human being you know will be using CBD. All of them. Even if they don't know they're using it. I'm not saying they'll all be using a bottle or a dropper or whatever, but it'll be in their drinks, their beverages. It already's happening, right? Just name a beverage, it's happening. Their food, their personal care, their skin care, everything. It's all CBD. And this is going to run a while. But it's just starting. We've watched what has been happening, and now it's just going to go to a whole nother level. But just be aware of what's out there. Be aware of what's happening online. You know, and I've talked to a couple of the online guys, big guys. They're great at marketing, man. Really good. 5,000, 10,000 units a day. They do not care what's in that product. They flat out tell me, I do not care, Sean. I'm like, well, don't try to talk to me, because I care a lot, and I can never provide you what you're looking for. Certainly not from a cost perspective, but I don't even know how to make something that bad. It's like, don't you want to give the customer real plant medicine and retain that customer? No, not real important to us right now. They're going to hit it and quit it. They're going to get as much as they can, and they'll be gone. And that's unfortunate to people who really need help. What we're witnessing has been nothing short of just crazy, miraculous, goofy stuff. And if you've used it, some type of CBD, and you've witnessed these things, you kind of know what I'm talking about. You dig it, kind of cracks me up. You said we were in a tent. It's probably like a revival too.
That's crazy.
Some of these gatherings that are happening they're weird, man. They're really weird. I mean, we love having the parents and the kids with autism that we've been able to help. It could be just, you know, verbal skills. It could be just eye contact or a calmness. It's life-changing. There's one little boy, I keep tracking his video. I just love watching. I think he's here in San Diego somewhere.
Yes.
Man, how cool.
Oh, yeah.
How cool is he, right? I mean, he's like completely dressing himself now, right?
And
Is that what's
starting
going
to
on?
talk.
Say it
Got
again.
more vocabulary.
His vocabulary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so awesome to watch these things go down like that. We were laughing because we were in Modesto a few weeks ago, and I got to tell you this because this one just cracks me up still. We probably 150, 200 people, whatever it was. A lady was sitting here, and she had her hand up, because I want you guys to taste this. And I asked her, ma'am, I'll answer your questions. I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. I'll stay and answer your questions. And she put her hand down. This was after I let everyone taste this CBD. She got up like 3 or 4 minutes later. She just stood up and walked and stood right next to me. I'm like, oh man, she had a big stick, big black cane with a big crown on the top. I'm like, okay, so she's gonna hit me with this thing. What's gonna happen? It was just a few weeks ago, you guys. So I just turned to everyone and go, she has a big stick. I'm going to hand her the microphone. No idea what she's going to say. This is my best option right now. So I just handed her the mic. And she went on to tell everyone how she has 2 knee replacements, MS, some other deal going on with her spine. She threw her cane and just walked across this way. I mean, it looked really goofy, man. And I had to take the mic because I don't know this lady. I really don't. I'm like defending myself. Because to me, if you haven't experienced CBD, this would look wacky. And as I'm finishing that up, the lady's emotional, and she's like, look at me. She's saying, look at me. I'm looking at her. She's doing this. And she goes on and said, there's a car accident 20 years ago. I haven't done this in 20 years. This is from a drop, by the way, you guys. One drop. And that's weird to me. We're getting used to it. But if you're not used to it, you would think, and I have to defend myself again. I don't know her either. I tell anyone. You should be able to spend about $100 a month to have CBD do what it should be able to do for you. And everyone's a little bit different. If I can find it, does anyone want to taste this fluid? Drop, and you can at least experience it if you like. There's nothing in there but the plant. So it's probably going to taste different for some of you, maybe strong. Might be too strong, which is not a problem because if it's too much of a plant for you, you can just drop it in your water and take it that way. Just when someone passes dry fluid, not oil. Some of you are going to hate the taste, maybe, I don't know. Some of you are going to love it. Some of you, it's just going to remind you of high school. Possibly. Now it's back. Some of you might feel your feet get warm, or possibly feel it travel through your body. That's okay. Don't trip out. Don't freak out now. It's all right. Is there anyone else in here that has used this whole flower fluid that I don't know about? Because I don't know everyone in here at all. Anyone else seen anything weird and goofy they want to share? I'm just curious. I like learning. I love watching the faces taste that. That's awesome.
You mean a testimonial? Sean, you mean a testimonial?
We had a girl at a little get-together last week. She didn't say anything, new girl. She came up, we gave her a little test, the one drop, and she looked perfectly healthy, young, healthy, but you never know. And she, all of a sudden she goes, I have a testimony. It's like, how can you have a testimony?
It's awesome.
And she goes, well, my back's been hurting all the way up from Imperial Beach all the way up to Temecula. And she's sitting there, she took one drop. She said, my back is not hurting as much. So we go, you want another drop? She goes, yeah, sure. So we gave her another drop. By the end of the get together, she goes, my back is completely, I don't feel anything. So, but she had never taken CBD before either.
That's pretty interesting how it seems to do different things for different people. And you guys don't think it has to do something right now. Sometimes it will hit your receptors. It'll do things immediately. Sometimes it'll do that for a few days or a week, and then it'll kind of drop for a little while, and then it tends to come back. We've noticed that our plant enzymes seem to work better with this whole flower fluid as well, which is pretty interesting. We've been doing plant enzymes a long, long time. We work with a lot of cancer people, you guys, lots of them. And that's really difficult because we can't say words like that. I'm not saying this is the end-all be-all for cancer at all. But real CBD actually makes cancer cells kill themselves. And that's pretty fascinating. ProjectCbd.org is a pretty good website to check research out. Kind of their own site, they're not selling anything. And they do tend to put a lot of research out there. So that's one resource you can check out. just always, just like with studies and things like that, we always want to follow the money. You know, milk does the body good. Who put that research on? United Dairymen, right? I mean, always just kind of look into that. We don't want to know the most in anything we're teaching. We're not trying to be the know-it-alls. And I think when it comes to trying to help the human body, a lot of people get too into that. You know what I mean? They're too into it. I just want you to look at the basics of what you're putting into your body as plant medicine. Yes.
I just wanted to share a story.
Story?
Yeah.
Like stories?
Yeah.
Sure.
So I've been into CBD for a long time, making it out of my house, and it's so important to me that I was traveling to Oregon because I thought the soil was better. Then I found your product, which fascinated me even more because I am particular. It was whole flower. That intrigued me. The other ingredient was water. That intrigued me. So not accidentally, I gave it to a diabetic. I didn't know that it was going to rapidly give her results. More important, I didn't know I was going to receive a ton of phone calls from diabetics that wanted the same healing. Here's the part that lights my own passion up. My daughter has a condition called Pcos, polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's the precursor to diabetes. When I asked the doctor how she got this, which threatens her ability to have children and her future, he said food. I said, what do you mean? He goes, does she eat corn? I said, no. But then I realized her dad's side of the family is Hispanic. She had a corn tortilla in her mouth every second. The call of action at that time when she got the diagnosis was a paleo diet. Every diabetic woman who has called me, and it's only been 48 hours, so I'm freaking out, was diagnosed with PCOS 30 years before they got type 2 diabetes. I mean, yeah, I'm passionate. My body is vibrating on a level I don't even understand. Because this is important, and it's important to know your CBD, it's important to know what's in it, and it's important to know what it can do for your body. I think my journey here, because my daughter won't listen to me right now, is to learn about her future. She'll come to me, she will, it's a matter of time. How did I just get handed like 8 diabetics in 48 hours? They've all ordered it. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I check in with the one diabetic I gave it to daily. Her numbers are good.
Yeah, it's pretty
How many?
pretty amazing.
2 drops. Her blood was at 200. She took 2 drops. She hasn't been able to budge her belly fat, her body. She's losing hair, which is a condition of polycystic ovarian syndrome. My daughter is balding on top. She took the CBD, she stopped back at my salon and was like, my blood work is down 40 points. So I'm like, wait, what? Is that good? She's like, and then I wanted to know all about diabetes. I was like, can I share your story on my Facebook? She goes, don't show my picture and don't say my name. I'm like, okay. I want to know tomorrow what your blood work is. I've been monitoring this whole thing. Next thing you know, people from Colorado are calling me. I mean, all these women are calling me. My very first question to every woman, because I care about my daughter's future. Have you ever been diagnosed with PCOS? Yes. PCOS, I've gotten so good at PCOS, I can almost identify it in your body without you saying a word. Like, I was on a quest to heal my daughter. And now, you know.
Your plan, man.
I'm freaking out. So anyways, this is just the beginning for me.
No, thanks for sharing that. It's super cool. That's cool. You could take that fluid and just drop it on the pet's food, put it on topically. You know, I've been putting it on my face. 2 summers ago, I had 4 really bad spots. It took me about a month for all 4 to just disappear. Last few weeks, one came back, so I've been putting it on. I try to put it on twice a day. I'm putting it on at least once a day. It's pretty much faded, it's almost gone. I got a nasty deal on my wrist. grew up, Arizona, San Diego, it's probably the bad guy. So I just said, I'm doing this first. It's shrinking down, it's just about gone. You just gotta give your body a chance before you decide to, if you're gonna go the other route, it's your body, you need to do whatever you do. Yes.
Good time?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, no,
it's relevant to everything.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, I just, you mentioned the sun and,
Yes.
I've been surfing since I was 12 years old, so we all know the repercussions of skin cancer. And I've been carved on since I was 30-something years old. I was raised on the beach, and, then I started surfing and it was sunscreen on and I went back. Well, I don't see anything, it's all healed. So I don't know if my body naturally did it or it was the sunscreen, but I don't know if any of the oils on, because I've had, believe me, I've put the cream on, I've had, the nuclear light on my head that looked like I just went through a torture chamber.
It's
So I don't think I'll ever stop surfing.
information, and when something's worked for someone, they're telling someone about that. So, we deal with it all the time. It's not like we're looking for it. We want to be there to help these people.
Right on those.
It's really sad. Most people don't know they have options, and we just want people to know you got options. It doesn't need to be us, by the way. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. We've never seen anything work as good as what we have. We didn't make it. She makes our enzymes. You can brag on her about that. We didn't make the CBD.
But I did approve it.
She did approve it. It's true. Which I'm super excited about because he too cares about people and loves on people. And that may sound weird or corny. I mean, that's the truth. And if people would just approach life a little differently like that, we all know this planet would be a little better than it is now, a lot better. So we really appreciate however you got here, just taking some time and hanging out with us. I want to do this again with a voice. Hopefully it wasn't too annoying that you could hear.
We love you, Sean.
Whoever pointed you here, they know how to get this stuff. Ask them. Love for you to try it. Comes out to about $2 a dose, $1 a drop. That little white bottle there has 50 doses in it. That's pretty cool. And then, just as important, if not more important, we need your voice. Not just because mine is horrible.
There's strength in numbers.
But there's not, if everyone in here would use your voice, people do, and they miss it because they want to know the most. Don't let your ego get in the way to know the most. It's not about that. Wouldn't it be cool if you took that extraction process, already done this, wouldn't it be cool? Anyone in here like essential oils? Wouldn't it be cool to have essential fluids without the chemicals that are bioavailable immediately, that have nothing in there. There's nothing in that dropper, nothing. No one.
And I didn't go back to the dermatologist for 5 years. And after being on CBD for as long as I have, they literally hacked a little thing off my shoulder this last year when I ventured to go back. And I said, clearly, internally, it was working. It was working on my system. But one of the things that I make an infusion. I don't do a water-based, but I just do an infusion. And I literally believe everything you're saying is so true. And I get it's really challenging. How do we characterize and start to re-educate? Be in the mass of this confusion about isolate and all these things. And I've had so many people come to me and say, my gosh, I used one product and it worked for me. My anxiety was gone, I was a new person. And then they went and sold some other product and they said, that just didn't work. But what I think I'm trying to do is figure out how to, and I like you, created a tincture that I did not put, and you know, get a lot of requests for, well, how many milligrams is in there? What is it? And the reality is that what I've tried to do is characterize, and I'm still trying to formulate this, and I basically have a farm, and I call it raw farm to table hemp. That's, you know, but the idea is that I'm trying to say, look, we got to be talking about, there's 2,000 plus, you know, terpenes. There's 130 cannabinoids.
Yes.
Well, all we're trying to do is take what's in that plant and get it into people's bodies. But the reality is we've got to have some sort of way to characterize that, so that, because I know a lot of people who say, well, they direct people to full spectrum, right? Which is great, but full spectrum is 10 different things, right? And so it's really, really tough to try and educate people. So I was kind of curious how you, and I really like whole flower, and that's what I say, is whole flower. But the reality is, it's a really tough one to characterize. So when people ask you, I'm just curious how you respond. And I noticed, like me, you don't put how many milligrams, because you don't want to be compared to things that are milligram based.
Just water time. It's hard. We're trying to re-educate the masses, and that's why we're doing I Know Voice. We're doing this. Thank you so much. We're doing it every day, and you know, we're going to start collaborating with. You know, David and I talk about different things online. And, you know, we do these Facebook Lives, and we're reaching 10,000 people at a time. And all we can do is do our best. We need more voices, and we'll get it together. We'll fine tune it, you know. And man, we're excited because we're putting a lot of small farmers back into business. People that got into medical marijuana and, you know, the THC side of things, and we just want to keep up. So now we started out in California, now Oregon, Colorado, and we're moving. We have to sometimes slow down to go fast, I guess, and not let it get away from us, but it's like a race to educate as many people as fast as we can so they don't get duped. But creating that education, it's a big deal. And then how do you create it simple enough? Because everyone wants to know the most. Everyone's an expert, man. And we don't even care. I mean, we don't care.
The rest of them that are marketing these isolates, that's what GW actually got approval of a drug for, was that isolate. So in effect, I'm hoping that that's where they come when they try to.
Did you guys grasp what an isolate is? Like, do you all know what that means when you hear that?
Can you explain that
That
again?
it is, so when you're looking at, so what he's talking about, that the plant has many components, think of a full alphabet, and then so an isolate is just having say A. And now you're missing the rest of the alphabet. And so what they're doing when and then they ruin it anyway. So it's alcohol, many chemicals. And so when you go to the store to buy CBD or really anything, whether it's calcium, whether it's vitamin C.
It's the principle of every
it's just one
prescription
thing.
drug you can imagine,
And it's
right?
not what your body's looking for. And it's not even a fractionated whole food. So it's not even like I'm taking ascorbic acid from an orange. So they start making it synthetically too, which is what they're going to do to cannabis as well, and ruin really everything. So our body is not using pesticides and herbicides, and so we make sure what you're putting in your body, if you think you're doing something good for your body, why on earth would you? It's like going to get a fresh juice. I want fresh apple juice. Would I want fresh apple juice? So if I eat one apple with pesticides on it, that's actually safer than juicing 10 apples with pesticide on all 10 apples. So you gotta understand that concept in general. So maybe, a little bit of alcohol here, or a little bit of pesticides here, or a little bit of fungicides here, doesn't seem like a lot, or the government will say, oh, it's way below the limits. It's never gonna affect you. Well, we've been traveling I've been traveling a long time, 20 some odd years. And so it's great for us to fantasize that everybody will know this, but I've been teaching enzymes and gut health for that, and I still walk up to people and say, are you taking a digestive enzyme? And they're like, no. I don't even know what a digestive enzyme is. But yet they're eating cooked and processed food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and wondering why they're getting diseases. So they don't even have a concept. I'll still mention raw food to people, and people go, I eat raw cookie dough, does that count? I'm like, I wish it did, I wish it did. So no matter how long I've been doing this and how many other great souls have come along to help me, sometimes work better.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating.
I really characterize
See, don't get me
it.
started.
It's
I'm
really
better
simple.
sitting down over here.
It's literally that it helps your body be the miracle that it is.
Yes, I agree. See, he got me fired up. All right.